Hello. You are likely aware that Pennsylvania faces a number of challenges with its large and aging transportation infrastructure. And probably no other area has received more media attention than the condition of our state's bridges. Unfortunately, a great deal of misinformation has been circulating about proposals that have been introduced to address transportation funding, particularly one I introduced last month. But let's look at the problem. Recently, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, PennDOT, placed weight restrictions on nearly 1,000 bridges across the Commonwealth that have been designated as structurally deficient. Though it sounds scary, and believe me, some people intentionally use this expression to try and frighten you, a designation of structurally deficient does not mean that a bridge is unsafe or in danger of collapse. In some cases, a bridge can be designated structurally deficient simply because it needs a coat of paint. In others, there may be only minor repairs or routine maintenance necessary. Please keep this in mind when you hear members of the press or politicians say that Pennsylvania leads the nation in the number of bridges that are structurally deficient. Regarding the bridges with new weight restrictions, PennDOT admits that none of them are unsafe for travel. The agency claims that these weight restrictions will extend the lifespans of the structures farther into the future. In fact, they have decided to change the measure of structurally deficient, which then qualified these bridges for weight restrictions. This action has imposed burdens on many of our communities, causing such problems as large truck traffic being rerouted through small towns with roads insufficient for the heavy traffic, and in some areas, cutting citizens off from emergency, medical, and fire protection services. Earlier this year, I asked for your input about transportation funding, and specifically, I asked if you would support a $2.5 billion proposal introduced by the governor, and a version of which was later passed by the Senate, included far more than road and bridge money. It included funding of mass transit, which is viewed by many of you as wasteful and should be addressed separately. Proponents always fail to mention that to pay for their spending spree, they would raise gasoline taxes by as much as 28 cents a gallon over 5 years. I asked for your input, and let me tell you, you didn't hesitate to give it to me. You told me that you are taxed enough already, and that state government must find a way of funding transportation that doesn't come down on the backs of hardworking taxpayers. I heard you loud and clear. That's why I have introduced House Bill 1681, which would create a fund to make upgrades to the bridges which PennDOT has labeled structurally deficient and posted with weight limits. My proposal would not raise gasoline taxes. Instead, it would raise funds by opening up limited areas of state forest land in the Marcellus Shale region for natural gas exploration. And take note, I mean limited areas. No state forest lands designated as ecologically threatened or sensitive would be touched. Right now, we drill on about 700,000 acres of state land, and nearly 800,000 acres remain and are believed to contain large reservoirs of natural gas. Yet due to an executive order issued by former Governor Ed Rendell, these lands remain off limits to exploration. My legislation would permit a portion of this land, limited to 300,000 acres, to be leased for natural gas drilling. I would direct the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to solicit bids from energy companies over the next 3 years. These bids would raise just over $1 billion in the first 3 years. Additionally, royalty fees of 16% would be assessed if companies actually discover natural gas on these lands and operate successful wells. The proceeds from the royalties and gas leases would be placed into a restricted account in the Motor License Fund to be used for the repair of weight-restrictive bridges. This would allow repair of between 350 and 450 of our structurally deficient state bridges, and up to 150 could be upgraded each year. All 1,000 bridges with weight limits could have repairs fully funded in just 3 short years, with no increase to the taxpayer. Though this is a common sense idea, special interest groups have distorted my proposal in earnest. They have incorrectly stated that my bill would threaten wildlife and sensitive ecological habitats. This is not true. They also have distorted, and in many cases hidden, the massive tax increases that would be passed on to taxpayers if we seek to fund these repairs primarily with gasoline taxes. For the safety of our communities and long-term economic health of Pennsylvania, we must bring our weight-restricted bridges back into full service. My proposal would do that while causing the least amount of harm to taxpayers. Thank you. Until next time, God bless.